Morning everybody, how are you? I'm Iris Smith from the Flower Patch. Right, this is just a separate video for what I'm going to do later. I've had a gentleman, David, again from Ohio. Hi David, I hope you're alright and get well soon, my darling. Asking, as he's a beginner himself, how do I choose my foliage? Basically for beginners or just for people who like to be creative. Sorry if I'm rubbing my hands, I've only just got in here, so it's not warmed up yet. So I've got bits of my foliage out. I haven't got everything out, but I've got the odd bits. Oh, and there's one I forgot, I think. Yeah, one moment. There's one I forgot. There we go. So I thought I'd just do a small little video and basically explain. I've been writing things down, guys. How I choose my foliage. I feel like a secretary. Right, first of all, I have a boundary. I start off with my boundary, and I tend to have a minimum of 3 foliage. More, depending on what it is. If somebody just wants one, a customer just wants one type of foliage, then that's the customer's preference, and I will do what the customer asks. But usually I tend to do a minimum of 3, and then from then on, who knows, I could add 5, 6, it doesn't matter. Bigger the better, hey David? Anyway, I always place a big leaf around the back of the wreath. If I get a wreath, and then I'll try and show you. Let me just grab one. I should have done all this before, but I haven't prepared. I've just tried writing things down in the house before I came in here. So there's your wreath. So again, I try to create my boundary around the back on basically how wide I want to, the wreath to be. And sometimes, obviously, if the customer doesn't want it that big, then I go by that as well. So, where's all the big leaves? So, I tend to use things around the border for the boundary, bigger leaves, wider and longer. So, like the palm, I'd use, something like that to go around the back because it's a bigger one. You wouldn't want that in the centre, because it would look too silly and it'd hide everything behind it. So bigger leaves like the palm. I'm going to get different ones. A solid leaf like the aspidistra, because that's big as well at the back to create my boundary. One moment. There they are. My big ferns, if I can just straighten that up as well. That around the back because it's long and it's wide. Again, you wouldn't want that in the centre because that'll cover everything behind it. Like that. My willow, because it's long. You can also use this slightly if you cut it down around the centre and just use little ones like that. Cut it down and just have those on the second layer. But if you want them bigger, you can have those at the back as well because they are tall and long. And there's quite a few leaves on there as well. I sometimes use the philodendron leaves because they are solid and they are wide as well. Again, the same reason, you don't want those in the centre, they'll cover everything behind. So things like that at the back as well. Again, my elephant ears. If I just grab one or bend the others over. Use those as well because they are wide. Again, the same reason. These bigger ones like this is because I don't want it covering it in the center, putting it in the center and covering what's behind. So like that. There, that's a solid leaf as well. You could also use your ruscus. This ruscus I've got here is quite bushy, and I tend to use things like this as well because to blend in with the solid leaves, it gives a natural look, and it also you know, gives it the height because you can give it the, you know, cut it as high as you want. But you can use these again in the center by just cutting the odd ones off shorter and placing those in. So you can use something long like that at the back, which you always tend to see me use my ficus. Doesn't matter which colour, you know, but ficus, because I can cut these stems off here and they end up being long again, and they can be at the back, blending in with the solid leaf. Like, let's get the aspidistra for example, and blends in with the aspidistra to give it movement and also contrast against the solid leaf. So that's your ficus. You can also use olive branches because they are tall as well. They are quite thin stemmed, but they are tall. And again, the same reason as the ficus with the solid leaf, they blend in and give it a natural movement and also a contrast against the full leaf. And then also our eucalyptus, our silver dollar, that also is a brilliant one to put around the back because that's got movement as well. Slightly bigger leaf. Again, for the same reason, by placing something against it, you know, or even the fern, because I do tend to use a lot of ferns. Place it against the fern and it blends in beautiful with the fern. It gives it that movement against it. So things like that on the back of my my wreath. I know it's an arrangement. Well, it is an arrangement. So I tend to use things like that. So the fuller leaf, which let's place on the floor, the fuller ones. And keep a couple up here because I will use those again. So then, once I've decided on my boundary, and whether it's gone halfway round or all the way around the wreath, I then go in front, what I call my second layer or second level, whichever you want to call it. So then by doing my second layer, which is in front of my boundary, what I've just created, I use slightly, some the same size leaves and some smaller. When I say the same size leaves, I mean things like the willow. I could place that in front by just cutting it down, you know, and having one with 3 leaves on, cutting the stem down and placing it in front to give it a little bit of movement on the inner side, well, coming into the center. So I can use that. I can also cut down some ruscus and do the same thing, and bring, you know, cut one off there and bring that in like the willow, closer in, because it's got smaller leaves than the bigger solid ones. I can do the same with the olive branch and cut bits off like that, smaller instead of the long stems and bring those in as well. So some of these foliage are you can use either on the boundary or on the inner side. It's mainly the bigger solid leaves or the big ferns that I tend to start off with on the outer side. And again, you could use ficus, and you can cut little bits, as you've seen my oddments where I've placed coming in on the second level just to get that movement and blend it in, and bring, if I place one on the back, bring that movement in from the ficus on the second level as well, to blend it in, to look, make it look natural, like the ficus is growing through from the back coming inwards. And same with the eucalyptus. Now I've got two eucalyptus here. I've got this eucalyptus cinerea, which is that one. You can use that instead and bring that in. You can, you know, keep the stems slightly longer because these are push-ups, and bring those in because they have got a smaller leaf than the silver dollar. Or you could use a silver dollar, cut bits off again and bring that on the inside. So I do that with that. And then I place, sometimes I've got my fern. I use this fern or similar ones I've got. It's not just this one because it's thin with the shape of it. It's not wide. It's thin and airy. Airy meaning you can see through it, so you'll see to the back of it. So I use those again for the bit of the length as well as contrast, and also some movement as they, you know, move around in the wind. So you can bring those in for your second layer, because bear in mind your first layer might be out here, maybe up to here. You can bring this in. I haven't got enough hands here, guys. You can bring this in, and the second layer, bear in mind your first layer may be, I just hold it there, up to here, so it's below the highest point. So with my boundary, I tend to make my boundary the biggest, meaning the tallest. My second layer, I drop the height of it and bring it down slightly because we're coming in to the center. So I use that, or I use the smaller fern. You know, this is another fern because it's got smaller leaves on it, they're not as big, and I could bring those in as well and dot those around. Or I may want to use a bit of crocodile fern because that is also smaller. You can take these off, you know, you haven't got to have them full like that, and use them for the same reason. So if I got, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have put these off though. There's my boundary, because you can see how high it is. Now this is lower. I don't go up here with it. I stick with it lower than my boundary because we're coming in steps, lower, 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 like a step going down, down, down. So I bring that in like that. So you could use that, and plus it's thin, again, wispy, and you can see through it. And the same with these are ferns as well. You can get these, I've put this on a single stem, but you get them with several on, just like the crocodile fern. You can bring those in again, smaller in height, and they're wispy, they add movement, contrast, and they, you know, they give it that wispy and that airy feeling as well. So that is for like the second layer as well. And I sometimes, as you know, use my cypress leaves. And the same reason, if I place one of these in, there's my boundary. The same reason, and then I will place that in like that. It's lower than this, it's not as high. And again, if I wanted to place one of these in as well, I'd bring it, you know, there, perhaps maybe slightly higher than that, but I wouldn't go above my boundary. As you can see, it's dropping in size as it comes down. So that is what I do with that. Or I may decide I'd like some boxwood, because this is airy as well, and I could place the boxwood in as well. You know, not put it on singular stems, not all the time. Sometimes I'd bring it in on full stem, so it's full, and bring that in as well. But again, not going above my boundary. And that is started to make it, just by putting those 3 in at the front of my boundary, making it look full. So that is how I do that. I've also got some, and I do that all the way around. You know, you haven't just got to put one there, one there, one there. You could put several. You know, I could put one of these here next to this as well, coming below the boundary. If I've got, you know, the smaller fern, if I can get it out. If you've got ferns this small, that's okay. You can bring that in it as well, because it's smaller than what you've got there. But usually I tend to use these at the back. But everybody's got their own preference. But as you can see, it's all, I'm trying to hold them, guys. If I just stick that in. Let's stick them in. I'm not saying they're going to hold. And I could stick these all around each other. Because you will be manipulating them anyway. I could have that like that. Again, so that's starting to look full there. What else did I say? With fern. Let's. I'll pop one on. Get it out. Yeah. Here's the smaller fern. Again, not as big. I could bring that on my second level as well, and joining in with, you haven't just got to have one type on the second level, you can have several different ones on the second level, or second layer, mixed in together around the similar height, and have that like that. And that is how I would do my second layer. And as you can see, I'm starting to run out of space here, so, and that's started to get full. I may decide again on my second level, I've got some airy vine, very airy, but it's got longer stems. I thought for a bit of more movement, I may want to add on contrast, add one of those in just to give it something different, and place that in as well. And again, I've got my, like I said earlier, you could place in your willow. So if I just take one off, I won't cut it off. Again, sorry if they're not standing upright properly, but I could take my willow stem as well, because that's smaller, because now I've taken that leaf off and the stem, I've cut the stem. You could place that in front of it also to give, you know, that contrast again. And you could do the same if I've got with the eucalyptus. Now that one's a bit too long. There's one on its own, what's been cut down already in my oddments. Again, you can use this, the eucalyptus with it also. And bring that and join that in with it. Again, it's giving it all different contrast. But if you want that behind the willow, just place it behind the willow. You know, it's your decision where you would like to put it. So that's what you can do. And the same with the ficus. I mean, I did have, let me get an oddment of the ficus. Saves me cutting it. Let's have a look. As I had the big ficus at the back, as I've shown you, I've cut a piece down smaller, and I can also place that, or maybe place it in here, this side, to bring it through so it looks like the one that I placed at the back is growing through to the front as well. So that's all the sort of things you can do for, you know, your greenery. And you know, I don't just choose one. I tend to place a lot. There's not any specific one. If you want a certain greenery, just, you know, what you want to go together, maybe get a solid one like a ficus or eucalyptus, where it's like a branch effect, and then perhaps a little fern to go with it if you just want 3, and then they will blend in lovely together. Colour wise, depending on my floral, if I've got, with the ficus especially, if I've got white flowers, because this has got white on the variegated ficus, I will incorporate that more than just the green one. If I've got something that I think like is quite dark in colour, like deep red or purple, then I'll use something quite with a bit of a lighter green on, you know, or like the fern here that I have with the lighter fern, then I would use that to make the purple come alive with a lighter background behind it. And that is how I choose the colour of the greenery. I do place in darker greenery, but I tend to add in the light one as well for it to bounce off and come alive a bit more. So that is how I place in the greenery. So then on the let's just get these and move these. Sorry guys, I wanted to just show David, you know, I like to help people understand. Oh, and I've also got, I forgot this as well, the asparagus fern. Now that is also a very different texture. It's not a full leaf, it's more of a spiky little tiny leaf. And again, for a bit of all the other different texture, you could place that in and put that in there. There's no specific place that they have to go. You could have it behind if you wanted, behind the ficus, so it sits behind the ficus. Again, there's no specific place. But just keep an eye on it. If you think once you've done, oh, that ficus doesn't look, that asparagus fern doesn't look right there, before you glue it in, place it somewhere else and think, well, it may look better with the eucalyptus and the willow, because they are a bit more fuller, you know, so in the leaf shape. So a bit of spikiness next to it, what's airy, will set them off. So that will help with that. So then that's that. And then when it comes to my centre point, once I've put in my flowers around, then I think, well, right, I need smaller foliage again. So I seem to like to go, you can go for like, obviously my salal, with, you know, wherever I've put it, my salal, because this is a brilliant filler foliage. Once you've got that in, that will fill and go just again slightly below the second layer, placing it. You're not placing it, you can have it up there if you want, but because it's got a bigger leaf on it, place it at the back behind the ones where they've got the smaller leaf. But if you wanted to fill a foliage like I like it, because it covers a lot, I place it there, around there, so then that covers. And if I placed it there, it would cover there as well. So I tend to like to use the salal. I'll go through a few bits that I've got, and I've got the ivy as well. That's an all year round plant. You could use ivy and cover it with the ivy as well, because that's like the salal, it covers a lot. The bigger leafed ivy anyway, because you can get smaller ones. I've got smaller ones and they don't do as good as an effect as the bigger ones. So then that covers that as well at the bottom. Oh, and I forgot to show you as well, also, if you want a tall wispy bit at the back with your boundary, things like the forsythia, the foliage stem, just to have that movement and that wispy bit, place a long stem at the back there. If not, like I've chopped away at that, cut bits off and place them on the second layer. And if you want them as filler foliage, cut them even shorter and place them down on the third layer. So that is very good. That, you know, you can use that again for different layers, first, second or third. It gives a lovely effect on them all. And also I mean, I've chopped away at this, guys. This was much longer. It was like the forsythia, but the ruscas, the smaller leafed ruscas. Now you can use that up here, or again, because they are long stems, you can use them at the back as well. And again, that is just for like the different contrast, and also so it's not a full, just to give it, you know, like say like this one where I put the asparagus fern. It's got a solid leaf. You want something against it what's going to contrast with it, and going to, you know, you'll notice that it's more of a woody effect, and it's also, you know, going to give it that extra little interest. So you could place that there, or cut it down like the forsythia, place it on your second row. Because it's only got small leaves, it will go anywhere. So it's brilliant again for that. Place it on your second row or use it as filler. Now the other one that I've got, the longer leaf ruscus, does a similar job to what the ficus does. You can stick that at the back like that, and again that gives you something at the back. Then I have the grasses. Now because these are push-ups, you can do the same thing with the grass. If I just push one of them up, you don't have to have them all pushed up, you can have them at the back. I just bend that one again for a contrast at the back, and just for a different touch, you can have that at the back like that, and leave the stems down. But if you want to push them up, just push them to the top, like that. And the smaller, so then you can have them coming on the second level. I wouldn't have, me personally, I wouldn't have them on the first level here, because, you know, they're quite long leafed, they're spiky. So I perhaps place them, if I didn't use them on the back, place them on the second level like that. So that is the grasses as well. place that there. So again, I've got harvest. These are harvest leaves. I haven't got any in green, I've run out, but they are good for filler foliage as well. You could cut little bits off here at the bottom or start at the top, wherever, chop them off and use them as filler foliage. Or again, you could have a longer stem, place that at the back to give it more contrast against, but things like with smaller leaves, place against a bigger or wider leaf. If you're going to place it against, say like the asparagus fern, you're not going to see the asparagus fern. So you need, with a more of a solid leaf, place it against something like that so you can see it. Or bring it on the second level and have it here. But I tend to use this as filler. I like it as filler. I don't usually place it at the back, or you can do that. Oh, I've got another vine here, so you can place another vine in and have that either coming over. You know, manipulate them into how you'd like them to sit and things like that. So that is for that greenery, for the centre, for the second level. Right, I'm gonna go through the smaller type filler foliage that I like to use. I do know the name of them. I've sat here going through my head and remembering, so I do know now. Right, this is a bit like the salal. It's green with white, like a stripy veins in them. Now that is called a nerve plant. So that is again like the filler, like the salal. It's a bigger leaf than what some of these, like the asparagus fern, are, but it sits well at the bottom and fills that bottom bit area up perfect. It doesn't mean to say as you go in you have to have smaller leaves. That's not the case. It's just usually on the back you have the bigger leaves. So that fits lovely. Now these I also like. I love these. These are called the spiderwort plant. They also are good as filler. You can have those if you like further up, because they're not massive either, so you can have those further up. But again, I sometimes do actually, because they've got a beautiful effect, and they are push-ups. They do push up. If I can get it to move, yeah. So you can have it like that. So that can sit like that as well. So that is your spiderwort plant. Now, I don't know why I've got a gold one in there, but I've got these red and green. These are, as people know, the Coleus. They are a house plant. You tend to see them as a house plant. You can have them in your garden, but that is a Coleus, and that again is a push-up. You can have those like I've just shown you with that one, with the spiderwort up there. But with things like this, I am a sucker for spreading them like a star and having them as filler. And that's how I choose for my filler, because the bigger they are, well, I say the bigger, I don't mean like the aspidistra, but the bigger these are, things like this, they cover a lot. It saves you putting in tiny little leaves like the harvest. It really does save a lot of time, and also money as well. It saves on money by placing bigger leaves in at the bottom. Now, I found out what these have got leaves. I forgot to show you these. Oh, move this before it drops on the floor. Now this is a Chinese evergreen. I forgot to show you this. Now they can go either at the back or at the centre on the second level. I wouldn't put them in the middle, in the centre of the wreath, because they're too long, so they'd go in the centre or again at the back. And I tend to like to use these when I'm using things like the reds, because they really are beautiful. So that is those. I forgot to show you those. Now these, I've looked up what these are called, and these are hornweed, or another name, coontails. That is what they are. Now this is, I've put one on its own stem. I could use in front of the back ones, just like the asparagus fern, to give it a bit of spiky texture amongst the wider leaf, and that contrast and that beauty. I think these are lovely. You know, you could sit those there. I'm trying to find spaces where to put it. Sit that there like that, in front of the ruscus or the eucalyptus. It's alright, some of them are falling down. And do it like that. And just again, just to give off that little bit of different texture. So they are hornweed, and you can also have those as filler as well. You can use those and bring those in the front here at that level, or bring them actually right near the centre as well. But they, with them being wispy, won't cover your grapevine wreath. So that is why I tend to use them like this, or at side of a flower or something like that. Now these I like as well, and these are also a nerve plant. If I show you, but these are in green and white instead of green and yellow. They're the same as these, and there's the same name, nerve plant. So I like these as well. Again, they cover a lot. You can have them up there if you like at a higher length. I like to see them around the centre because of the white veins, you know, and they cover also a lot. But you can have them, and I'd say on your second level or layer, not at the back, on your second level, say like in front, maybe there, or in front of this, and place there. And that is how I place. If I get another one, and then you could place one right at the bottom. And then that will cover that. So that's, then you've got your flowers and the foliage on your flowers, and then you've got your salal. Again, you could place your salal with it. And then there you see it all coming down in stages. Top, middle, that's virtually in the middle, bottom. So there's 3 levels of foliage. And then in between I will add my floral. And that is how, David, I choose my foliage. I don't always have everything on here. If I'm doing, say like, I'll grab this one here, I used eucalyptus, ficus, the cypress leaves or conifer, the little fern, the rubbery textured fern, and this hornweed. That was it, nothing else. But with these, I start off with the thicker, as you can see, like the eucalyptus, rounded or wider leaf around the side with the ficus, and then I brought in the thinner, more narrow looking leaf here. Then I chopped off some eucalyptus down and placed that slightly a bit more inwards as depth so it doesn't stick out and fulfill it. Then I added a little bit of the ruscus as the tinier leaf around there. That's what I did on that one. If I can find the hook. Where's the other one? There we go. This may help a bit more. On the sunflower one, as you can see, there's my bigger leaf at the back, the fern, and I've added the ficus with it to blend in and come and pull bits through, and then I've also put in the grasses because they're tall. And then there I said there's the ruscus where I've left longer stems, what will mix in lovely with the fern and the ficus, and that is what I've done. I don't know if you can see it better at the back. Again, there's your fern and your ficus, how I've placed them like that. I've put the ficus behind the fern just to give it a bit of movement behind there as well. And then the taller grass, and then there's your ruscus, is smaller leafed ruscus. And that is all really the foliage that I have placed in with these. So, oh, and then as you see in the centre, I've used my salal for the centre as well, to, you know, the bigger leafed ones to cover around the grapevine there. And that is what I've done with that. It's done it in stages: higher, medium height, lower height. And I've only chosen the colour, I haven't chosen any particular colour. I know we've got the yellow flowers, so I've used the darker fern to bounce off of that yellow, and also I've used like the limey green ruscus, because that bounces also off of the sunflower. And then I've brought in the variegated ficus to add white into it, because we've got white in our anthuriums, so I've added white to go. I take into consideration the colours of the floral that I'm using as well, like the anthuriums. So I thought, right, we've got a bit of white, we've got a few white daisies, wild daisies, so I need a little bit of white, but I don't want white in my bow. Well, that's a cream colour, that's not white. So what could I use to bring in my foliage to go with the anthuriums and the daisies? And the variegated ficus was my number one choice, and it blends in lovely. So then, because on the anthuriums they are a creamy colour, I needed cream, but not white. White, the clear, really white is too much. So I needed to blend that whiteness down, so I went for the cream. So that's what I did. Oh look, he's waving. So that's what I did with that. I tend to like to bring white in to or cream, because not always, it just makes things come alive, so to speak. So I hope that helped, David, and I hope that made sense. Let me just grab my cup, and my husband's just sneaked it through the door. Oh, isn't he good? And that's why with my floral as well, if I've got, you know, a lot of greenery and I'm not using the variegated ficus, I bring in things like the calla lilies to give that movement, and they've also got white in them, or the globe fern as well. I wanted to go through a few things concerning type of foliage, what you can get, or spring foliage, excuse me, and things like that. So, I feel like I'm in a meeting. Gosh, I can't remember last when I left school. That was what I was, as private secretary. So I feel like I'm in a meeting taking notes. Anyway, anything to help as far as I'm concerned. Spring foliage. Now, you would have heard a lot of these. I've placed them on some of them because I've also written down all year round foliage as well. And on some of them I've written down what they look like, and others I haven't, because you know what they look like, you know, because they're quite commonly used. So first of all, sorghum. Now sorghum is a cereal grain. It's just a smaller version of your corn grain that you have in your fields. That's all it is. If I get one, I do have them. Grab. Right, that is your corn, that is your sorghum. It's just a smaller version of that. That's all it is, guys. Well, let me drink this because it's a bit cold getting. Oh, hurry up that cup warmer. I've got to wait till 24th of January. What date are we on? Oh, 20 days. Oh. Right. And another one, we all know, our grasses. These are spring foliage that I'm mentioning at the moment. Our grasses. So that's that. Not just this type, you know, just any. I've got several, but I just grabbed this one. Herbs. Fennel, asparagus fern, oh gosh, herbs. Thyme, things like that. That's a spring one. Now you get ivy and plus arrowheart ivy. So ivy's an all year spring foliage. Here's just one of them. Ivy. It's not holly, it's ivy. So that is spring as well. Obviously your ferns. Ferns are an a spring and an all year round foliage. Dusty Miller. We all know what that is. It's beautiful. Beautiful. In fact, I don't know where mine is. It's probably at the bottom of a bucket. But Dusty Miller. Hang on. Now that's intrigued me. Sorry if I keep getting up and down. Where's my Dusty Miller? Is this a little piece? Is this an oddment? No, good gracious me. Come on, Dusty. Oh my gosh, it is crammed in here. Dusty Miller. Now I've got it in like a coral colour, a very light lilac, and the traditional green. It's very furry, feeling like the lamb's ear. But that's your Dusty Miller. And then obviously your lamb's ear, which is the same texture, which is used a lot in weddings, especially in the UK. I don't know about everywhere else, but it is here. People love it here. Hosta. Now we have hostas here. I guess you have hostas everywhere really, because they're very common. They're a spring foliage. So hosta leaves. Clover. That's another one. Calleus. I've shown you those. That's a spring one as well. Hops. Now I've got hops. They're in there somewhere. I can see the bucket and I know they're in there with all the seed heads and things. Elm leaves. That's a spring one as well. Pistachia. That's basically what the leaves off the tree that grows pistachio nuts. That's a spring. Vinca. Now I'm not or Vinca. I'm not sure what that is, but I know it's a spring one. I was told, or I've been sat here racking my brains writing these notes down. Rice grass. That's also spring. Thyme. And then guess what, of all things, ficus. Ficus, guys. So they're some of the spring foliage that I can remember in my head. This is going back a few years, guys. A few years, but I know for sure they are spring foliage. Right. Now these are a few names of all year round, not just seasonal. They are all year round greenery. Right, eucalyptus. We all know eucalyptus is an all year round. It's beautiful. You can get it at any time of the year, even in real flowers or plants. Boxwood. I shown you that earlier. Boxwood. Tea leaf. Now that's an all year round one. I've got some of that up there actually. I should have got that down. Aspidistra. Now I use that on here. That's an all year round one, your aspidistra. Your salao. My favourite guys. Your beautiful salao. What covers lots when you're doing flower arrangement. Your lemon leaf. Did I say lemon leaf? I can't remember. No, I said tea leaf, didn't I? No, lemon leaf. Now I've got some of that with my artificial fruits that I have in there. Myrtle. Now we all know what myrtle is. It's beautiful. That is also an all year round. Olive. There's your olive. That's an all year round with the berries on there. Pittosporum. Now guys, when I did real flowers, this is one of them, but Pittosporum was one amongst eucalyptus and ruscus. It came on my list. I adored it, absolutely, and it is fabulous for doing flat arrangements. Brilliant. I loved it, absolutely loved it. It's beautiful, loved it. Ruscus. Now I've had the two ruscuses here, the one here at the back, the long leaf ruscus, and then I did have, I've been chopping at this, but the smaller ruscus. Now that is the Italian ruscus. So that is the ruscus. Leatherleaf. I've got some of that up there as well. Didn't I look at this and get things out? But sorry, but I'm sure you all know what it is. Leatherleaf as well, all year round. Fabulous for weddings. Fabulous for, the sad times, funerals. It is beautiful. It is honest. Oh, and there's another one. What's an all year round? Oh gosh, I've got it on the garden, but it'll come to me. It will. It'll come to me. So let me place them there. Now this isn't an all year round. The forsythia, the flowers don't come every year. The leaves stay. The leaves do stay, but the flowers don't come out until springtime. I haven't put that on the list. So we've mentioned ruscus, we've mentioned dusty, millet. So I'm just placing them on the floor because I've got them everywhere here. Salal. So yeah, leather leaf. My favourite, one of my favourites. Beautiful conifer. That's on the list. Conifer all year round. Oh my good gracious, or cypress leaves, whichever you want to call it. You get them in the woods. If you go to the forest, you walk through it, you will find cypress leaves. It's an all year round plant or tree. Beautiful. Amaranthus. Now I've got amaranthus. It's lovely. Honest guys, the flowers are beautiful. That's an all year round foliage. Huckleberry. Now don't we all love huckleberry? I like that. I haven't got any, but I like it. And another one of my favourites, the maidenhair fern. That's what it is, the rubbery textured one. I just call it the rubbery textured, but the correct name for this is the maidenhair fern. Now isn't she beautiful? An all year round foliage. And also the Boston fern. Now that's just as pretty, really is. And another all year round, ficus. Told you. It is a good one. It is brilliant. So you can use that ficus in your arrangements at any time of the year. Any time of the year. It is a stunner. Magnolia leaves. Now guys, that is one of my list, the magnolia leaves, with the green on one side and the brown on the other. They are adorable, absolutely adorable. In fact, I may have some in here. They are beautiful. Let's have a look. Let's get that one, I think. Yes, here's one. Guys, they are so beautiful. There's the magnolia. Green on one side, brown on the other. What a contrast that is. They are fabulous. When I worked with these in real flowers, oh my goodness, I loved them. And if you don't use them, just pull them off and can use them in your wreaths if you don't want the flower. But they are magnificent. How divine are they? So I love them. And again, the magnolia flowers are beautiful. Once they've finished flowering, the leaves are just there. Let's place that back on. But don't they look pretty with the flower? Oh. Salvia leaves. Now, I've got a salvia on my garden and they are all lovely. Really, the leaves are really pretty. Unfortunately, I can't use them in here because I don't do real flowers anymore. But, never mind. Right, now there's a few more left and I've wrote a few things down where if some of people over here as well may not have heard of them. So I've wrote down what they sort of look like really. Right, the Smilex. Now that's like a pinkish bamboo like vine. It bears small thorns on it, and the leaves do vary though. You can get like oblong, heart shape, some shiny, some leathery, and and the bare little tiny flowers as well. That is the Smilex. Right, the pothos. Now the leaves, they look very similar on the pothos to the philodendron leaves. Very, very similar. Could easily be mistaken. So they look very similar to that. And it is also, it's an house plant, the pothos. So, right, cottonwood. Now, guys in America would know what it's like. I've never seen one, to be quite honest, over here. But they are like from North America. Well, I think it's North America, if I can remember my knowledge. But I think well, I know it's a tree. It's like with triangular, like tooth-shaped leaves on it, what go down like that. And I think, you know, I'm sure that's what it's like. Cottonwood. Now, everybody knows what cottonwood is. I don't think we get that either over here. I'm not sure. I've never seen one either. But that's from, I think, not cottonwood, sorry, let's get this right. My fault, I've just said cottonwood. I don't know how you pronounce it. Ginkgo. Ginkgo. Now that's a fan-shaped leaf. If I can recall, fan-shaped leaf. I think that it resembles slightly of the maidenhair fern. It's, you know, the leaflets of it resemble the maidenhair fern. Now, I don't know if you pronounce it nagi or nagi, which is a Japanese tree, and it looks like similar, the leaves anyway, to the ruscus. That's what that looks like. Now, correct me if I can't pronounce this wrong, guys, but it's Podocarpus. I think from South Florida, North Carolina, and it has needle-like leaves. Now, I've seen a picture of these, and they are beautiful. Absolutely, I'd love one. They grow massive, but I'd love one. I really would. Beautiful. And then there's the, oh gosh, here we go, Schefflera. Now that's a house plant, and that has leathery leaves, and it grows in a ray-like formation, like an umbrella type thing. Comes over like that, and they've got wide leaves as well, similar to, wider than that. I mean, where they've got the rounder, but not as many leaves sticking out. They sort of like round it off, and then I say, like, if that's missed one, then another round one there, but not as tall as those, you know, long leaves as those. They're more like that. I don't think I've got any. So that's what they are. And then also you have the plumosus. Now that has slender stems, frond-like branches, and it's basically often known as a fern. It's like, oh, I haven't got any, guys. It's what we tend to use a lot in weddings. I don't know anywhere else in the world if that's what you do, but it's very, very fine. Very, very fine. Or you place in a buttonhole or something like that. I think if you touched it, you know, it looks very, well, it is, it's very delicate. We used it in fresh flowers, in real flowers, and it is very delicate. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So that is my list of all year round foliage that I can think of on the top of my head. I haven't done a video yet. I'm going to place all this back in my buckets. I've done this because I wanted David to give David a bit of help concerning how I choose my foliage. And again, I tend to pick, the more solid leaf, like the fern, the palm, perhaps the elephant ears, the aspidistra, you know, things like that, the taller leaves, to go at the back first. That's the first thing I choose. Then it's usually 9 out of 10 I tend to use to go with it at the back, the ficus, the eucalyptus, silver dollar, because that's my favourite, or the willow, things like that, or perhaps the crocodile fern, the taller one, or ruscus, to go with it. Things that are like a branchy type effect. And then as I move forward onto my second layer, I tend to use things like my maidenhair fern, perhaps a bit of crocodile fern, some ruscus, some eucalyptus cinerea, because it's smaller, as you see in the leaf size, than the silver dollar. My conifer or cypress leaves, because they are spiky and they're airy, so you can see through, and they give movement. They bend and they give a beautiful movement. Things like that. And then I bring down to my third layer, which is the inner layer of the wreath, like the nerve plants, the silver nerve plant, you know, missalal and things like that, or maybe some harvest or lavender, you know, or even the Boston fern, which I've got. I'll just grab one. I love these. Or even seed heads you could use. The Boston fern, if I just grab them and bring them close, you can use those as filler as well. They're beautiful. I mean, they will sit on your wreath like that. They're beautiful. There's a cluster as well. They're lovely. And then also, you know, on the second level, I'll bring in the smaller stem. I mean, they're quite long, but bring in the smaller fern where the leaves aren't as long as well. And I place sometimes these around the side, you know, on the second layer, poking out of the side as well. And then obviously I put in my flowers, and if I think I need some more filler foliage, then I will add some more of that in and place bits around where I think I need it. Maybe the small ruscus, the boxwood, maybe the forsythia. Even cut down little bits of the ficus, you know, things like that I bring in on the more in towards the center. And also you could bring a bit of olive branch and cut those down to smaller pieces and bring those in on the side. And I take into consideration the color scheme that I'm doing. Again, if I'm doing per dark colours, I tend to bring at least a bit of light foliage in, lighter than dark green, you know, like the lighter fern, so the darker flowers can bounce off of it. And then I also bring a bit of white in, or cream in as well, to uplift it and bring it alive. So I hope, David, that really helps. I don't know how long this video has gone on, but I will be posting it immediately, and then I can crack on and get sorted with what I'm going to do for our video for later on. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and again I'll see you shortly. Take care. Bye bye.